A simple idea, but sometimes very uncomfortable, is the fact that fear based parenting breaks the trust. Every child is constantly asking one question when they're in the presence of their parents or guardian, and that's, is it safe for me to just be myself here? Not just when things are going well, not just when they're behaving, but especially when they mess up, especially when they've done something wrong, because that's the moment that defines your relationship with your child. A lot of parenting focuses on correcting behavior, fix the attitude, stop the disrespect, handle the mistakes. And it's in those moments where emotions run really high. Frustration shows up. Maybe your voice gets a little loud. Maybe consequences come very quickly. Maybe there's a tone or a look, a shift in energy that says, look, kid, you've crossed the line. And listen, no one's saying that you're not allowed to feel frustrated. You parents are humans too. Uh, but what matters most is what your child learns to do with your emotions. Because when discipline leans heavily on yelling, threats, or intimidation, something subtle but very powerful happens in those moments. And that's the relationship shifting. It moves from being safe to survival based. And once that shift happens, your child is no longer asking, is this right or wrong? They're asking, is this going to set my parent off? Now, I want you to think about what that does to the communication between you two, because communication only works when there's safety. And when a child feels safe, they'll tell you things are messy. They'll tell you when things are incomplete and sometimes uncomfortable. They'll come to you with half formed thoughts. They'll admit to their mistakes, and they'll say things like, well, I didn't know what to do, or I messed up. But when a child feels like your reaction is going to be unpredictable or overwhelming or super intense, that's when they start filtering, they start editing, they start managing the information that they give to you. And this isn't because they're trying to be manipulative, it's because they're adaptive. Children are incredibly good at reading the emotional environments, and they learn what tones are safe, what moods are dangerous, what versions of themselves keep things calm in a sense. So instead of bringing you the full truth, they bring you different versions of it, softened versions, delayed versions, or carefully constructed versions. And not because they don't trust you as a person, but because they don't trust what might happen next. This is how fear rewires communication skills. It turns honesty into a risk. And once honesty feels risky, self protection immediately takes over. So let's talk about what that looks like long term. Because in the moment, you might feel like things are working in your favor because your child's listening, they're following directions immediately, they're not giving you too much, if any, pushback. And from the outside, that looks like respect. But over time, something starts to change. The conversations begin to get shorter, they give less detail, and sharing becomes very selective. And eventually, the silence begins to replace any openness that was there. And here's where we need to clear things up: fear and respect are not the same thing. Fear says, I'll behave because I don't know what happens if I don't. Whereas respect says, I value this relationship and I understand why this matters. And those are two completely different foundation. One disappears when the authority is gone, while the other one stays. If your child behaves only because they're afraid of your reaction, then your influence ends the moment that you're not physically around. Now, let's go a layer deeper, because One of the most overlooked dynamics in parenting is when a child has to manage your emotions. They stop having space for their own. If your child is constantly thinking, don't make them mad, I have to keep things calm, I need to fix this before it gets worse, they're not learning how to process their feelings. They're learning how to suppress them. They're learning how to prioritize your emotional state over their internal experiences. And that absolutely comes at a cost because those emotions don't just disappear. What happens is they get pushed down deep inside, and then they show up later on in life as anxiety, shut down behavior, or explosive reactions in safer environments. They have difficulty expressing their needs, or they have a complete disconnect from what they're feeling at all. And now, instead of you raising a child who understands themselves, you've raised a child who monitors the emotions and behaviors and reactions of all the people around them. Now, let's bring this back to something practical. Imagine your child makes a mistake. In one environment, they think, I need to tell my parents before things get worse. Whereas in another environment, they think, I need to fix or hide this before my parents find out. Same child, different outcome. What's the difference? The child feeling safe. Because a child who feels safe won't mind risking being honest with you. And a child who feels afraid is going to choose protection every single time. So when we talk about discipline, the question isn't just, did the behavior stop? The question is, what did this teach them about coming to me with their problems the next time? Did it teach them I can be honest even when I mess up? Or did it teach them I need to manage this on my own because it is absolutely not safe for me to bring it to my parents?